Tonight, we bring you the account of Sarah Chen, a dental hygienist from Portland, whose ordinary life was shattered by memories that shouldn't exist. What started as unexplained nosebleeds led Sarah down a rabbit hole of recovered memories, genetic anomalies, and a terrifying discovery about her own DNA. Her story forces us to confront an unsettling question. What if some of us aren't entirely human? And what if that's exactly what they've been planning all along? This is Sarah's testimony, a journey from denial to acceptance of a truth that changes everything we thought we knew about ourselves and our place in the universe.
My name is Sarah Chen, and until 3 months ago, I was a perfectly ordinary dental hygienist living in Portland, Oregon. I'm 34, unmarried, no kids, and I thought the strangest thing about my life was my collection of vintage teacups. I was wrong. It started with the nosebleeds. Every morning for 2 weeks straight, I wake up with dried blood on my pillow. No trauma, no medical explanation. My doctor ran tests. Everything came back normal. But the nosebleeds weren't the weird part. The weird part was that I started remembering things that never happened. Or so I thought. The first memory came while I was cleaning Mrs. Patterson's teeth. She was unconscious under nitrous oxide when suddenly I wasn't in my office anymore. I was lying on a cold metal table in a room with curved walls that seemed to pulse with their own light. Beings with large black eyes and gray skin were standing around me, their thin fingers probing my abdomen. One held what looked like a long needle with a cord attached. I could feel them extracting something from inside me, but there was no pain, just a terrible awareness of violation. Then Mrs. Patterson coughed, and I was back in the dental chair, my hands shaking so badly I had to excuse myself. The memories kept coming. Fragments at first, floating down a beam of light, being unable to move my arms and legs. Seeing other humans on tables like livestock in some cosmic laboratory. But the clearest memory was of a child. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, with my dark hair but skin so pale it seemed translucent. Her eyes were too large, too knowing. When she looked at me, I felt a connection so profound it made my chest ache. A gray being held her small hand and spoke without moving its mouth. "She is yours, the first of many." I tried to convince myself these were just vivid dreams, stress from work. But then I found the scar. It was hidden just inside my hairline, perfectly straight, about 2 inches long. I'd never noticed it before, but when I touched it, my entire scalp tingled. I made an appointment with a different doctor, claiming I'd found an unusual mark. Dr. Ramirez examined it with a magnifying glass and frowned. "This is surgical," he said. "Very precise." "When did you have cranial surgery?" "I hadn't. Ever." That night I decided to stay awake and document everything. I set up a camera pointing at my bed and forced myself to remain conscious. Around 3 a.m., my bedroom began to glow with a soft blue light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The light grew brighter, and I felt my body becoming heavy, my thoughts slowing like thick honey. The last thing I remember recording was writing, "They're here. Can't move. Light getting." I woke up at dawn with the pen still in my hand. The video showed me sleeping peacefully all night, but the timestamp jumped from 3:17 a.m. to 5:42 a.m. Over 2 hours were missing. Desperate for answers, I started researching online. That's when I found the forums, hundreds of people reporting similar experiences. Recovered memories of medical procedures, missing time, scars that appeared overnight, and children, always the hybrid children. One post changed everything. A woman named Lisa from Minnesota described a recurring dream about her daughter, a pale girl with her features but alien eyes. She'd posted a sketch of the child's face. It was identical to my own drawing from the night before. I contacted Lisa immediately. We video called, and within minutes we were both crying. She'd been having the same experiences for years, the same impossible memories. But Lisa had gone further. She'd hired a private investigator who specialized in what he called anomalous experiences. His name was Marcus Webb, and he agreed to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. He was smaller than I'd expected, with prematurely gray hair and eyes that seemed to see too much. He listened to my story without interruption. taking notes in a leather journal filled with similar accounts. "Sarah," he said finally, "you're part of something that's been happening for decades, maybe longer. These beings, the ones in your memories, they're not just visiting, they're harvesting." He showed me files, medical records of women who'd had impossible pregnancies, sudden conception followed by equally sudden miscarriage, with no fetal remains ever found. Fertility clinic records showing genetic anomalies that shouldn't exist. Birth certificates for children who appeared normal but aged differently, thought differently. "They're creating hybrids," Marcus explained, "taking human genetic material and combining it with their own. The children you remember, they're real. They're being raised in their facilities, prepared for something we don't understand yet." The evidence was overwhelming. Satellite images of remote installations in the desert that appeared and disappeared without explanation. Government documents heavily redacted, but mentioning Project Looking Glass. And genetic integration protocols. Testimony from military personnel who'd guarded facilities they weren't supposed to talk about. But the most chilling evidence was biological. Marcus had arranged for DNA testing of several experiencers like myself. Every single test showed the same anomaly, genetic markers that shouldn't exist in human DNA. Sequences that appeared engineered, artificial. "They're not just taking from us," Marcus said. "They're changing us, making us more compatible. Each generation gets easier to work with." I submitted my own blood sample that day. The results came back a week later, and my hands trembled as I read the report. There it was, the same impossible genetic sequence found in dozens of other abductees. A strand of DNA that marked me as something other than purely human. But the real shock came in the detailed analysis. Hidden in my genetic code was something the lab technician called dormant activation sequences, genetic switches that could be triggered by external stimulus. The report suggested these sequences might control everything from fertility to brain function to aging. "They've been preparing our bloodlines for generations," Marcus told me when I called him with the results. "You're not just a subject, Sarah. You're a test run for something bigger." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to process the magnitude of what I'd learned. I wasn't just the victim of alien experimentation. I was the product of it. My parents, my grandparents, maybe generations of my family had been part of this program without knowing it. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The integration is nearly complete. Your daughter asks for you." I tried to reply, but the message disappeared from my phone as if it had never existed. My hands were shaking as I checked my call log, my message history. No trace of the text remained, but I remembered the words perfectly. And somewhere in the darkness of space or dimension beyond my understanding, a pale little girl with my eyes was waiting for me to come home. The nosebleeds stopped that night. I haven't had another recovered memory since. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between sleep and waking, I can feel her calling to me across the void. My daughter, my impossible, beautiful, terrifying daughter. And I know that someday soon, they'll come for me again, not to take more from me, but to bring me to her, to complete whatever they started in my bloodline generations ago. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm ready.
The story is laid out before us, but what does it really mean? Let's dive deeper and uncover what's beneath the details.
Welcome to Living Witness. I'm your host.
And I'm your co-host. Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into a really unusual personal account. It's called My Hybrid Heritage, written by a woman named Sarah Chen.
That's right. And Sarah's story, well, it definitely pushes the envelope. It details experiences that are, shall we say, far outside the everyday.
Absolutely. It's a first-hand testimony. And what we want to do today is really get into it, examine every piece of what she describes.
From these initial strange physical things right through to the, frankly, extraordinary places her story ends up.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Sarah Chen, living in Portland, Oregon, a dental hygienist. Her hobby, collecting vintage teacups. Sounds pretty normal, right?
Completely normal. Grounded. That's what makes the shift so striking.
Exactly. Because then, seemingly out of nowhere, she starts getting these unexplained nosebleeds. Just starts happening. For me, that's the hook. The ordinary routine gets disrupted.
It's often something seemingly small, isn't it? A physical symptom doctors maybe can't explain easily. It becomes the loose thread you start pulling.
You start looking for answers, maybe beyond the obvious medical ones, if those aren't forthcoming.
Precisely. The body does something unexpected, and the mind searches for a reason, a pattern. These nosebleeds, maybe minor in themselves, they become the first signpost on a very strange road for her.
A strange road indeed. Because next come the recovered memories. And this is where, things take a sharp turn into the truly bizarre.
The first big one happens during a dental appointment, of all places. Mrs. Patterson's appointment.
Yeah, and the patient is apparently on nitrous oxide, which is an interesting detail in itself, but Sarah suddenly isn't there anymore. She finds herself on a cold metal table.
Right. And she describes these beings. Gray skin, large black eyes, very specific imagery.
And she feels this probing sensation in her abdomen. Sees a long needle attached to a cord. She says she felt something being extracted but without pain. Just this profound sense of violation.
That contrast is stark, isn't it? The lack of physical pain, but this deep emotional or psychic distress. And the details, the cold table, the pulsing lights, these are elements you hear echoed in other accounts of, well, similar alleged experiences.
It really makes you think about memory, how it works, what triggers these incredibly vivid, almost hyper-real recollections that feel completely disconnected from the immediate surroundings.
Absolutely. 1 minute, dental drills and minty paste the next. This alien clinical setting.
And it wasn't just a one-off flash. She starts having more memories, though they're fragmented at first.
Like puzzle pieces.
Exactly. Sensations of floating maybe on a beam of light, feeling paralyzed, unable to move, and seeing other people, other humans on tables nearby. She calls it a cosmic laboratory.
That image, the cosmic laboratory, it suggests observation, study, a lack of control, being a specimen almost.
And the paralysis element you mentioned that seems really significant. It pops up so often in these types of narratives. What's the thinking on that?
Well, from a purely physiological standpoint, we know about sleep paralysis. You wake up mentally, but your body's still in sleep mode, unable to move. And it often comes with vivid, sometimes terrifying hallucinations.
So could it be that? Misremembered sleep paralysis episodes?
It's certainly a possibility that needs to be considered, especially for memories surfacing around sleep. But Sarah recalls this first one during a dental appointment, seemingly wide awake, and the later ones too. So it complicates that simple explanation. Does the paralysis have another source in this context? That's the question her account poses.
Okay, but the memory that really seems to anchor everything for her, the one that feels most significant, is the hybrid child.
Ah, yes, the child. This is a major turning point.
She describes a little girl, maybe 5 years old. She has Sarah's dark hair, but her skin is incredibly pale, almost translucent. And the eyes, large, dark, and described as knowing.
Knowing eyes. That implies an intelligence or awareness beyond her apparent age.
And Sarah feels this instant, overwhelming connection, like a mother's connection. It's profound.
And then comes the communication.
Right. Not spoken, but telepathic. From one of the gray beings. The message is, she is yours, the first of many.
Wow. Okay, that's incredibly specific and loaded. Introducing a child, her child, gives the whole experience an intense emotional weight. It taps into something very fundamental.
It moves it beyond just being examined or abducted.
Exactly. It suggests purpose, reproduction, a lineage. And the first of many implies an ongoing program, something bigger than just her. If you accept the memory as real, the implications are, well, staggering.
But she doesn't accept it immediately, does she? Initially, she tries to rationalize it all away.
Which is perfectly understandable. Stress, vivid dreams, and overactive imagination. These are the logical boxes you try to fit these experiences into first.
It's the brain trying to maintain normalcy, right? When faced with something utterly bizarre.
It's a defense mechanism, trying to make sense of the nonsensical to integrate the anomaly without shattering your whole view of reality. It's easier to think I had a weird dream than I was on an alien ship meeting my hybrid daughter.
Until you find something you can't easily explain away, like physical evidence.
The scar.
Yes. She discovers the scar about 2 inches long, perfectly straight, hidden just inside her hairline, something she hadn't noticed before, but once she does.
It becomes a tangible marker, something real she can touch, linking back to those disturbing memories.
And she consults a doctor, Dr. Ramirez. His assessment: the scar looks surgical, very precise, like it resulted from cranial surgery.
Which Sarah insists she's never had.
Right. So now it's not just a weird mark, it's potentially evidence of a physical procedure she has no conscious memory of undergoing. How much weight do you give something like that, a scar?
Well, physical findings always add a layer. It moves beyond purely subjective experience. Dr. Ramirez's opinion, if accurately reported, certainly makes it more compelling. It seems to corroborate the intervention theme from her memories. But you still have to be cautious. Could there be a forgotten childhood injury? A minor procedure she dismissed? A misinterpretation by the doctor, or by Sarah, of what the doctor said, without access to her full medical history, independent examination? It remains suggestive, but not definitive proof of something anomalous.
Okay, fair enough. But it pushes Sarah further down this path. She wants proof, or at least documentation. So she sets up a camera in her bedroom.
Trying to catch something concrete.
And one night, around 3 a.m., she experiences something. Describes a soft blue light starting to glow from the walls. It gets brighter.
And physical sensations, too.
Yeah, her body feels heavy, like it's sinking. Her thoughts become slow, sluggish. She manages to speak into her recorder. Her last words are, "They're here, can't move, light getting."
And then silence, but the camera.
The video footage just shows her sleeping, apparently peacefully. But there's a gap. The recording jumps from 3:17 a.m. straight to 5:42 a.m.
What's
Over 2 hours, just gone.
The classic missing time element. This crops up again and again in these accounts.
What's your take on missing time from a more rational perspective?
Objectively, time gaps on recordings can happen. Equipment glitches, power interruptions, user error even. Memory gaps are also common. We don't remember every second of sleep or even waking life.
But the context here is key, isn't it? The blue light, the physical sensations, her last words.
Exactly. The subjective experience leading up to the gap makes it feel significant to the person experiencing it. It feels like time was removed or that something happened within that gap. The blue light detail is also interesting. It's another recurring visual motif in these kinds of reports. Is it a shared external stimulus or a common internal interpretation of some unusual neurological event? Hard to say.
So Sarah's now got the memories, the scar, this missing time incident. She's feeling less like this is just dreams.
Understandably. She needs answers.
So she does what many people do now. She goes online, starts searching, and finds forums, groups, people describing eerily similar things.
Recovered memories, medical procedures on tables, missing time, unexplained scars.
And the hybrid children theme, that comes up too.
Finding that community must have been quite a moment. On one hand, terrifying maybe, confirming your experiences aren't just your isolated strangeness, but also, perhaps validating, less alone.
Both, I imagine. Realizing it's potentially a shared phenomenon.
And the internet allows for that convergence. People finding resonance in each other's stories. Now, does that mean there's definitely a single external cause? Or could it be shared cultural narratives, psychological archetypes influencing interpretations of ambiguous experiences? Or both? It's complex. You have to consider all angles when evaluating these clustered accounts.
Then there's a specific connection she makes. Lisa from Minnesota.
Right. Lisa posts about a recurring dream, a daughter figure, familiar features, but distinctly alien eyes.
And Lisa includes a sketch. Sarah sees it, and it's apparently identical or virtually identical to the child she remembers, the one from her core memory.
That's a very specific point of synchronicity. Shared visual details from people who haven't met.
They arrange a video call, and reportedly both women feel this immediate recognition, this confirmation that they've experienced something profoundly similar.
That shared visual, the identical sketch. That's harder to dismiss purely as coincidence or general cultural influence, isn't it? It doesn't prove anything definitively, of course, but it's certainly one of the more intriguing details in Sarah's account. What could explain such specific shared imagery? Shared archetypes again? Some form of telepathic bleed-through, if you lean that way, or maybe a genuine shared external reality. It definitely deepens the mystery.
This whole experience leads Sarah to seek out professional help of a sort. A man named Marcus Webb.
A private investigator, but one who specializes in, quote, anomalous experiences.
Not your typical PI, apparently. Smaller guy, graying hair, but Sarah describes his eyes as incredibly sharp, perceptive.
He sounds like someone who's carved out a niche looking into these fringe cases.
And his reaction to Sarah's story is immediate and pretty bold. He tells her she's not unique, she's part of a phenomenon, a decades-long program of harvesting carried out by these beings.
Okay, so he has a pre-existing framework. He hears Sarah's story, and slots it straight into his harvesting hypothesis. That's his interpretation right off the bat.
And he claims to have evidence to back this up. This is where the narrative really expands, goes beyond Sarah's personal experience.
What kind of evidence does he supposedly have?
Well, he talks about things like medical records, showing impossible pregnancies, women suddenly conceiving, then just as suddenly miscarrying, but with no actual fetus found, ever.
That sounds difficult to verify. Anonymous medical records.
He also mentions fertility clinic data allegedly showing strange genetic anomalies in certain patients, and even birth certificates for children who look normal but supposedly age differently or have unusual thought patterns.
Again, these are big claims, extraordinary claims. From a skeptical viewpoint, you'd need to see these records, have them independently verified by credible sources. Anecdotal references to secret documents or anomalies in databases are common in these fields, but hard proof is usually lacking. It's easy to claim access to hidden data. Proving it is another matter entirely.
His central theory underpinning all this is hybrid creation.
Right, the deliberate mixing of human and other genetic material.
And these hybrid children, he claims, are being raised somewhere, secret facilities, for some unknown purpose.
And he brings in more supporting elements.
Yeah, things like satellite images supposedly showing temporary remote installations that appear and disappear, redacted government documents with code names like Project Looking Glass or mentioning genetic integration protocols.
Ah, the government conspiracy angle. Project Looking Glass is a known name in UFO conspiracy circles, but its existence and purpose are highly speculative, certainly not confirmed mainstream facts. Redacted documents are intriguing, but can mean anything.
He also mentions testimony. Unnamed military whistleblowers who guarded secret bases where the stuff was supposedly happening.
It paints a very elaborate picture, doesn't it? A vast hidden infrastructure. But again, the reliance on unnamed sources, unverifiable documents, alleged satellite photos. It fits a certain narrative structure common in these areas, but the tangible, verifiable evidence remains elusive. It often feels like connecting dots that might not actually form the picture being claimed.
But then Marcus presents what Sarah seems to consider the most concrete evidence, biological proof.
DNA.
Yes. He claims to have arranged DNA testing for multiple experiencers. And he says the results consistently show non-human genetic markers, engineered sequences, artificial additions to their DNA.
Okay, hold on. If true, that would be monumental, genuinely world-changing. Finding consistently identifiable engineered non-human DNA integrated into multiple human genomes. That's Nobel Prize territory and then some.
It sounds definitive when he puts it like that.
But the scientific bar for such a claim is incredibly high. Who did the testing? What lab? What methodology? What specific sequences were identified? Were the results peer-reviewed, replicated independently? You see, the human genome is vast and complex. We still don't understand all of it. There are endogenous retroviruses, weird repeating sequences. Attributing something definitively to non-human engineering requires extraordinary proof, far beyond simply saying we found anomalies. Without transparent data and independent verification, it remains just a claim, however compelling it sounds within the narrative.
Marcus has a quote here that Sarah includes, summarizing his view. He says, "They're not just taking from us, they're changing us, making us more compatible. Each generation gets easier to work with."
So that frames the entire phenomenon, the alleged abductions, the genetic stuff, as a long-term, directed program. Not random encounters, but systematic modification.
Preparing humanity for something, increasing compatibility.
That's the implication of his interpretation. It provides a motive, a goal for these alleged actions. It fits his hybridization model, but again, it's an interpretation built on claims that lack that solid, verifiable scientific foundation.
And the clincher for Sarah. She submits her own blood sample to Marcus for testing.
In the result.
According to the account, her results come back positive. They confirm she has the same impossible engineered genetic sequence found in the others.
Right. So for her, that's it. Personal, physical proof aligning with her memories and experiences. You can see how that would feel utterly convincing to her.
It validates everything she's been through in her mind.
Absolutely. Though the same caveats apply regarding the testing's credibility. Was it Marcus's own lab? An independent one. We don't know the details from Sarah's account, only her acceptance of the result.
The analysis apparently went even further. Marcus tells her they found something else in her DNA. Dormant activation sequences.
Dormant activation sequences, meaning what exactly?
He describes them as genetic switches, capable of controlling basic functions, fertility, brain activity, even aging. And crucially, they could supposedly be triggered by some external stimulus.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. The idea of genetic switches isn't science fiction. Epigenetics is all about how genes can be turned on or off by environmental factors or internal signals without changing the underlying DNA sequence. We have regulatory regions in our DNA. So the concept of dormant sequences that can be activated has a basis in real biology.
But Marcus's interpretation is different.
Right. He takes that established biological principle and overlays his specific narrative onto it. He tells Sarah, "They've been preparing our bloodlines for generations. You're not just a subject, Sarah. You're a test run for something bigger."
So these aren't just random epigenetic markers. They're deliberately implanted, waiting for a signal.
That's his claim, that these sequences are engineered, part of this long-term compatibility program, ready to be switched on. It connects her personal biology directly to this grand, multi-generational alien agenda. It's a powerful and, frankly, quite chilling interpretation if you were to accept it.
And just as Sarah's trying to process all of this incredibly heavy information, something else happens.
What's that?
She gets a text message from an unknown number.
All right.
The message reads, "The integration is nearly complete. Your daughter asks for you."
Wow, that's direct. And ties everything together, the integration, the hybrid daughter.
But here's the thing. As soon as she reads it, the message vanishes. Wiped from her phone. No trace in the message history, call logs, nothing. Gone.
But she remembers it perfectly.
Yes, she's adamant she saw it. Read those exact words.
That adds another layer of the uncanny, doesn't it? Communication that bypasses normal channels leaves no digital footprint. It reinforces the idea of advanced technology or perhaps non-conventional means. Or, again, you have to consider psychological factors. Could extreme stress or expectation manifest as a perceived message? Memory is reconstructive, not a perfect recording. The ephemeral nature makes it impossible to verify externally. It becomes another piece of compelling subjective experience within her narrative.
So what happens after all this? After the DNA results, the message?
According to Sarah's account, the nosebleeds stop. The recovered memories cease flooding back. It's like a phase is over.
But she's left with something. A feeling.
A connection.
Yeah, a constant lingering sense that her daughter, the hybrid child, is out there, calling to her, waiting for her.
And her conclusion, her final state of mind in this account.
It's one of acceptance. She believes the story Marcus laid out. She accepts her role in this multi-generational program, and she says she's ready, waiting for them to return, to take her to her daughter, to complete whatever it is they started.
That's quite an endpoint. From confusion and fear to resolute acceptance and anticipation. It's a profound psychological journey, regardless of the external reality of her claims.
It really is. She seems to have integrated these extraordinary experiences into a new understanding of herself and her place in, well, potentially a much larger cosmic picture.
Whether that integration reflects an objective truth or is a powerful way of coping with deeply strange and perhaps traumatic experiences, that remains the core question. Her narrative ends with her finding a form of peace, or at least resolution, within this extraordinary framework.
So there you have it, the account of Sarah Chen from My Hybrid Heritage. We've walked through it, all the nosebleeds, the unsettling memories, the scar, the missing time, the investigator, the DNA claims, the cryptic message, and her final acceptance.
We've tried to unpack the details, look at the evidence presented, both subjective and the alleged physical or biological proof, and consider different angles, from the perspective within the narrative to more conventional scientific or psychological viewpoints.
It's a dense and challenging story. It touches on fears and wonders about the unknown, about contact, about what it means to be human.
Absolutely. It raises fundamental questions.
And ultimately, it leaves us, and it likely leaves you, wrestling with interpretation. What really happened to Sarah Chen? Was it a series of misunderstood physiological events, vivid dreams, and psychological stress manifesting in a complex narrative, perhaps influenced by cultural tropes?
Or is there something more to it? Does her account and the similar account she found point towards a genuine phenomenon that current science doesn't grasp? An interaction that truly challenges our understanding of reality, biology, and our place in the cosmos?
There's no easy answer provided. The evidence, as presented in her account, is compelling to her, but lacks that independent, verifiable rigor science demands.
So we leave it with you. Consider the story, the details, the potential explanations. What do you make of My Hybrid Heritage? Where do you think the balance of probability lies? It's certainly a case that invites reflection on the boundaries of belief and the nature of evidence itself.
Sarah Chen's story forces us to confront a terrifying possibility that our bodies may not entirely belong to us. Her journey from unexplained nosebleeds to the discovery of alien genetic markers in her DNA reveals a program of manipulation spanning generations. The hybrid daughter she remembers, the missing time, the surgical scars that appeared overnight, all point to a reality where human evolution is no longer in human hands. What's most chilling isn't the abductions themselves, but the systematic nature of it all. The genetic switches lying dormant in Sarah's blood, waiting for activation. The text message that vanished from her phone. The sense that she's not a victim, but a product. Carefully cultivated, genetically modified, prepared for a purpose she's only beginning to understand. Sarah says she's ready now, no longer afraid of what's coming. But as we consider her testimony, we're left with haunting questions. How many of us carry these same genetic markers? How long have they been preparing us? And when the integration is complete, will we still be human enough to remember what we've lost? Some transformations happen so gradually, we don't notice until it's too late. Sarah Chen may be our canary in the coal mine, the first to recognize that humanity's metamorphosis has already begun.
Thank you for listening to Living Witness. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps us bring more incredible stories to light. Want even more? Join Living Witness Plus for exclusive content. An extra show every Friday, plus 2 surprise bonus episodes each month released at random. More stories, more mysteries, and deeper dives into the unexplained, all for our most dedicated listeners. Follow us for updates, and if you have a story of your own, reach out. We'd love to hear it. Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and stay curious.